How to be a good strategist. 6 practical tips. 48 laws of power. Introduction. Unveiling the invisible game. There is a silent anguish that corrodes within when you perceive your own power slipping through your fingers, sliding through the cracks in relationships, and getting lost in competitive environment. You feel a tingling in your stomach knowing that important decisions happen without your consent, as if you were a spectator trapped behind a translucent veil, watching your destiny being forged without your voice. This weight is almost tactile, pulsing in your chest, twisting your rib, and leaving a bitter taste in your throat, reminding you that, despite all effort, playing field remains obscure. Seneca would compare this strategic mind to an ungrafted garden. Without nurturing the root, without caring for the deep soils, even the most beautiful flowers wither in the first drought. When your attention doesn't water the inner ground, values, clarity of purpose, self-knowledge, any plan that sprouts on this crumbling earth crumbles under the first adversity. The image of an abandoned garden arises in the mind, full of seedlings that never truly took root, reminding you that external strength only comes from the persistent cultivation of the inner soil. Cicero would teach us that speaking with intention is, from the outset, gaining ground. He who masters discourse draws the battlefield. Every carefully chosen word builds an invisible bridge to another's mind. Every strategic silence creates space for the other to advance unnoticed. But why do we seek this influence? Do we desire power to fill internal voids, filling gaps in self-esteem and recognition, or to rebuild our own dignity, raising walls of integrity instead of fortresses of vanity? Feeling the chill of this questioning, listen to the echo of your deepest motivation, for in that echo resides the map of the true strategist. 1. The hidden wound of dispersed power. When you witness crucial decisions being made without your voice, an emotional void settles in your chest like a hole that sucks away every heartbeat. The sensation is like wielding a sword without a blade, carrying a power that doesn't cut, a talent that doesn't weigh. This emptiness throbs in silence, grows slowly, and becomes a permanent echo in every conversation where you remain silent. The pain of being a spectator to your own destiny doesn't announce itself with shout. It infiltrates small failures of recognition in the averted glance, in the invitation that never arrives, slipping through the cracks of relationships like a river losing strength before reach. There's a subtle shame in realizing that even surrounded by people, you feel isolated. It's the shame of seeing ignored abilities, ideas that only bloomed within you, projects that never found fertile ground. You carry within you an arsenal of plans and intentions, but you lack the external echo that confirms the real value of each insight. Thus, it becomes difficult to distinguish the weight of your own power from the weight of others' opinions, and the sword that should open paths remains hidden in the sheath of invisibility. This feeling connects to a deep desire to belong to decision-making circles, not to flaunt status, but to see your worth recognized for who you truly are. The longing for participation is, in its essence, a call to rebuild your own dignity, to fill the void that was born when you failed to honor your potential. And at this meeting point between pain and desire lies the spark that can reignite your protagonism. The perception that dispersed power is not a reflection of impotence, but the silent invitation to seek the place where your blade can finally shine. 2. Intention versus result. The misunderstood stoic core. There's a subtle trap we fall into when we believe that simply outlining a plan is enough for the result to meet our will. Drawing the plan is like sketching a map, but without sweating on the trails, the destination remains an unattainable drawing. The confusion between desiring the effect and cultivating the internal means gives birth to an empty strategy, floating rootless, like a sail in the wind without a rudder to guide it. In this space, intention distances itself from the result, creating a void of unfulfilled expectation. Seneca warned that it's not enough to want to govern the world without first governing oneself. True strategy is born from internal mastery, where thoughts align with actions coherently. When we skip this step, silent vanity takes over, and arrogance dresses itself as confident. It's the Stoic who forgets to examine their own shadows before pointing to resources and tactic, turning the pursuit of efficiency into a parade of skills that are nothing more than appearance. Ultimately, the absence of self-examination turns every external victory into a hollow echo. You can accumulate territory, gain influence, and still feel that something essential is missing. That sensation that power didn't originate from within, but was merely collected as crumbs. Strategy without self-knowledge resembles a sandcastle, imposing for an instant, but destined to crumble when the tide brings true challenge. Therefore, the strength of the integral strategist emerges when they recognize that result and intention must walk together, like two companions sustaining the same ideal. Only by developing internal discipline and compassion can we ensure that every step taken in the external world reflects a solid construction. At this meeting point between thought and action, the Stoic core is revealed. It's not just about achieving goals, but about aligning your own being with the purpose that underpins each goal. It is there, in this profound alignment, that true strategy rests firm and compact. 3. Breaking expectations. Strength is not synonymous with tyranny. Some believe that the intensity of power is measured by the volume of command, by the thunderous tone that commands respect, as if shouting were the only hammer capable of forging dominance. But this view arises from a deep confusion between strength and tyranny, between presence and oppression. Raising your voice might elicit immediate silence, but it leaves wounds that bleed in secret. The power that echoes loudly traps both the listener and the speaker, creating walls so high that even your own shadow finds no room to breathe. Imagine raising stone barriers so thick that even your own essence is held captive. Unknowingly, you build prisons of grandeur that turn against you, and silent tyranny manifests in the weight of unquestioned orders, in the constant tension that prevents ideas from flourishing. It's a scenario of intimate isolation, where the strategist believes they dominate the battlefield, but ends up hostage to the resounding echoes of an empty void. What if true mastery were born in the silence of coherence, in the calm rhythm of action, aligned with clear purposes? Acting without fanfare isn't a sign of weakness, but the discreet pulse of a solid conviction, capable of moving mountains without trumpeting its strength. Full presence doesn't need trump. It rests on the serene confidence of someone who knows the right time to speak and to be silent, who understands that measured action reverberates further than momentary clamor. This shift in perspective challenges the strategist to reevaluate their concepts of authority. Instead of raising walls, it's possible to open cracks for dialogue and trust. Instead of shouting orders, it's possible to invite alignment. And then a new question arises, soft but profound. What if true mastery was acting in the silence of coherence, not in the clamor of order? In the echo of this question, power redefines itself, ceasing to be tyranny to become the silent art of influencing by example and integrity. 4. Practical tip 1. Silent mapping of the pieces. There is a discrete power in the simple act of observing those around you with attention, grasping subtleties that go unnoticed in the rush of day. In silence, you make a mental note. Then, on paper, you describe who acts out of self-interest and who acts guided by genuine affinity. This simple gesture opens an inner window, revealing patterns of proximity and distance, tacit alliances formed in the unspoken lines of conversations and gestures. As you fill this map, you begin to see territories of real influence, spaces where your ideas resonate, and others where they only sound like distant noises. When the pieces of the board are revealed on paper, each name gains color and texture. You recognize the sparkle in the eyes of those who thrill at your success, and the contained shadow in the gestures of those who expect something in return. It's like drawing a map of a garden at night, lighting the torch in each dark corner until the entire landscape becomes visible. Little by little, dispersed power concentrates into clarity. You know where to step, where to build bridges, and where perhaps to avoid unstable ground that doesn't support true root. In the nightly ritual of review, the note come alive. Before sleeping, you reread your secretly recorded intention, calibrate your focus, and eliminate what sounds scattered. This silent practice whispers in your heart, reminding you that strategic effectiveness is born from the attentive repetition of your own commitment, from the daily return to the motivations that are worthwhile. And as you close your eyes, the inner map gently integrates into your sleep, allowing your decisions at dawn to already find the ground prepared. This mapping doesn't require grand external revelations. It's an intimate movement of self-knowledge applied to the social world. By recognizing affinities and resistances, you expand your field of vision and learn to position yourself precisely, saving energy where doors are open and saving effort where the soil is barren. It is in this constant redrawing that strategy becomes alive, organic, aligned with the real pulse of the relationships that build your power. And then, in the silence of this exercise, the question renews itself. Facing the map you yourself drew, where is the next point of support to raise your plan? Each mapped piece is a reference for where to cast your voice with intention and where to water the roots of your strategic garden, ensuring that power, this time, is cultivated from the inside out. 5. Practical tip 2. Time as a strategic ally. There is a subtle value in remaining still before acting, like a calm sea that reveals deep currents beneath the surface. Observing the tide before setting sail allows you to feel the rhythm of the environment, understanding the wind's direction and the current strength. This conscious non-doing is not emptiness, but active preparation, a moment of attentive listening where you capture the pulse of the terrain before launching the vessel into the sea of decision. Seneca reminds us that the river does not run faster because the water begs. It runs through the bed that has been prepared. Thus, strategy strengthens when the inner ground is shaped with patience and care, and haste dissipate for the awareness that necessary time builds solid foundation. The analogy of the riverbed speaks of previous paths that naturally guide the flow, avoiding unnecessary wear and tear and unexpected rupture. In this rhythm, a method emerges that gains strength in its simplicity, the 1-minute wait. Before responding to a challenge, simply silence the initial impulse, breathe calmly, mentally, count to 5, and listen to your own inner judgment blossom. This brief interval acts as a filter that separates automatic reaction from intentional action, allowing the mind to regain clarity and align the gesture with the greater purpose, instead of being carried away by urgent. When this time becomes an ally, strategy ceases to be a rigid plan and transforms into a fluid dance circumstance. Each second of pause composes a symphony of presence and evaluation, where the space between stimulus and response creates the freedom of choice. And by recognizing the power of this serene moment, the strategist discovers that the most certain movement springs from a calm heart, ready to act at the exact moment and with the strength that only conscious patience can offer. Forging the integral strategist. Seneca warned that no kingdom is built where self-control is lacking, and this lesson now resonates as a gentle chant traversing your inner being. Power without virtue implodes, for it lacks a firm foundation to sustain its construction. When the mind directs actions with calm and discipline, each decision becomes an act of silent responsibility, not a shout of sovereignty. It is at the convergence of self-mastery and empathy for others that the true strategist emerge, capable of articulating scenario and at the same time keeping their heart at peace. Epictetus whispers that freedom is born when we master our reaction, not when we master others. This distinction brings forth the most silent victory, becoming the architect of your own life before attempting to build castles on foreign ground. Every act of observation, every intentional pause, every choice guided by inner coherence converges into a pattern of integrity that echoes further than any decree. The integral strategist proceeds without fanfare, their strength visible only in the solidity of their internal foundation, in the clarity of a compass that never gets lost. If every chessboard could be dismantled, which pieces would you keep to rebuild your inner empire? This question reverberates as a sacred invitation to reflection. It is values, patient, compassionate discipline, and self-knowledge that sustain every future movement. In the silence of this questioning, you find the starting point to project not just a realm of influence, but a legacy of